Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Please say hello as soon as you hop on. Good evening. Jody, hi. I wasn't expecting you. Amanda, hi. Kathy, hi. Jackie, hi. Can everybody hear me? Krista, hi. Can you hear me? Tracy, hi. I hope you're feeling better, Tracy. Let's see who else hops on. Thank you for saying hi, because it's very helpful. Otherwise, all I can see is numbers. It says 7 viewers. But unless you say hi, Shelly, I don't know who you are. Let's just wait a little minute for some more people to hop on. You guys get to see me in my full makeup today, because I did a photo shoot earlier. So that was interesting. Hello, Michelle. We'll just wait another minute because I want to kind of hop straight into the conversation. Can you guys hear me okay? Because I did buy a new very expensive microphone, and I'm still kind of trying to figure out all the different buttons and everything. Thank you, Kathy. Thanks, Jody. Thanks, Krista. Thank you. Okay. I suppose we'll just hop into it. I wanted to take a different approach to this evening's class, and although I always teach, I wanted to teach a little bit different tonight because I really want you to understand. Let's see. I'm just waiting to see if anybody else hops on. We're still kind of ahead of the game. How was everyone's day? Everyone have a good day? Today was exhausting for me. Hi, Stephanie. Sound is awesome. Hey, Tanya. Hey, Leanne. I hope everybody, well, almost everybody, can stay for most of the call, especially you, Tanya. This is going to be like a real learning. A lot of this stuff you'll have heard before, but I'm hoping I can help you connect the dots a lot more. So we're going to kind of look at how the whole system works from here downwards. And in order to start with that, I got to start with the whole stress context because it really is the stress that throws it all off, everything off. So in the beginning, there was man. No, in the beginning, everything stems from stress, but that all stems from your brain. So when you get a perceived stress, and that could be anything. For me, sometimes just answering the phone is stressful. For you, it could be stubbing your toe or your cat got out or something. It's the individual's perceived stress. So what's stressful for me may not be stressful for you and vice versa. But regardless, your perceived stress, whatever that is, that comes in as a signal and it hits your brain and it hits all the different areas of your brain. But the one area that gets hit the most is your pituitary gland. And the pituitary, if you were to put your tongue up against your palate, it's there just slightly to the back. It's just above your palate, which is amazing to think, hey, that's just there. So it's your pituitary gland that then responds to whatever the stress or the signal is. And that's where we get this downward ripple effect. So if it's a lot of stress, then your pituitary gland is going to send a signal down your nervous system, and that's going to hit your adrenal glands. And you've all heard of the adrenal glands and the stress response and adrenal fatigue and everything like that. So, and as ex-husbands, current husbands are very stressful, Jody. Before I go on, as usual, if there's anything you don't understand or you've got questions as I'm going along, put them in the comments and then I'll get to them. So then this stress sends a signal down your central nervous system. So listen to me and listen to me well. Down your central nervous system. And that's going to hit the adrenals. The adrenals then are going to respond. And first, so they make the glucocorticoids, which are your stress hormones. And usually first to come is adrenaline. Adrenaline can be both good or bad. Then next, we've got cortisol. So adrenaline gets released first. This is like if a tiger was coming, that's your like, go, go, go. That's the fuel. If you're doing a really great workout, or I don't know, if you're at a rave or something and you're feeling like really pumped and you can feel that adrenaline as you lift your weights, that power output that you get, that's adrenaline. What comes after adrenaline is the cortisol. That's the stress reaction, like if you're going to stay wired or how that's going to impact your body. And a lot of people who are always stressed, whatever their perceived stress is, usually will always see these elevated stress hormones. And it's not just cortisol. That's important to remember, because cortisol gets a lot of attention, but adrenaline is usually there way before the cortisol is, and can be almost more detrimental than cortisol, except when you get tests done, blood panels. So someone sent me their AM cortisol today. If you get a Dutch test done, they won't test adrenaline, they will test cortisol, and then based on that, us practitioners have to decipher, and your symptom pictures look your adrenaline dominance. But that's how it works. Then that has a ripple effect throughout your body. So we're going to go back up here. When you get this signal, it hits your adrenal glands, and the adrenals pump out the adrenaline and the cortisol. It's super interesting how it happens, actually. The adrenaline comes from the center of the adrenals, whereas the outer membrane makes the cortisol. The body is like fascinating. But also, your adrenals do make a lot of your DHEA, which is the parent hormone. It can even make a little bit of progesterone, which is really important. But back up the body to here, where we would think of our Adam's apple. If you swallow, you'll feel something move. That's actually your thyroid that you feel move. The Adam's apple is actually slightly behind that. The thyroid is in front of the Adam's apple. That's why if people like are messing around or they feel something's off, you can feel lumps and bumps. You could feel like nodules or whatever, depending on how big they are. Now, your thyroid and your adrenals are like sisters, like you and Jennifer, Tanya, like me and Marlene, your sisters. And you know, you have that intuition. You can always tell when something's up with your sister. Well, with the adrenals and the thyroid, when something happens to the adrenals, it happens to the thyroid. So if the adrenals were to get hit with a hammer, that's going to affect the thyroid. Just to kind of give you an extreme analogy. If you have adrenal dysfunction, you have thyroid dysfunction, and vice versa. They go hand in hand. They are sisters. Sorry, cat hair somewhere. Now that's important to remember, because the thyroid is really at the butt of everything when we look at metabolism and overall well-being. So the two biggest things that I associate good thyroid function with, like these are the two biggest. There's lots of things that the thyroid is a key player in, but usually for me, when I'm considering the thyroid, the two biggest things are going to be metabolism, because without metabolism, you'd almost die. Like nothing works. Your metabolism is not just the fat burning and energy production as you think. It's all the biological processes in your body. Every cell that turns over, every new hair that's made, every new eyelash that grows, everything is your metabolism. So metabolism, and the other one, immunity. So important. When you don't have an optimal thyroid, your metabolism, your body, all biological functions, they are not going to function properly. If all biological functions don't function properly, your immune system is not going to function properly. And if there's one thing, and Tracy, you'll agree with me here, if there's one thing that's going to slow down your results to either weight loss or getting better or getting healthier, well, it's being sick all the time. If you are sick all the time and one week you're sick, the next week you're fine, but then you're sick again and you're just on this roller coaster, that's going to impede your progress of being your best self. And that's going to then affect the metabolism and the thyroid even more, because when we're sick, well, what happens? We get an inflammatory response. Inflammation will slow down the thyroid. But not only that, and I'm really conscious tonight of not getting too complicated and sciencey, so please stop me if I do. When you have a lot of systemic inflammation, most of you know this, your metabolism will slow down. And that's at the cellular level. That's not just, again, your energy production. That is literally at the cellular level. The cells become inflamed. The mitochondria spinning head can't work properly, but also your insulin receptors, they become blocked. So now you've got more insulin resistance. It really is like, I know. I talk about inflammation all the time because I'm very interested in inflammation. I think it is like the key player in aging and health overall. And the research shows us this, if you can suppress inflammation or keep that fire out or keep the inflammation like low, you can slow down aging. You can reverse aging if you do it properly. Like, you really can. And it's amazing. Inflammation is obviously connected to all diseases, aches, pains, headaches, the whole lot. So that's why I'm so interested in it, and I like to kind of have you have an awareness around it. So when the thyroid slows down, your metabolism slows down. And I'm going to get into one test I'd like you all to consider once we get to the end of this. A few of you are already doing it. It's just a simple at-home test. So metabolism, obviously important for everything, but if you want to lose weight, your metabolism has to be working optimally, because if you have mitochondrial dysfunction there, where the mitochondria are not working properly, you see this all the time. It doesn't matter what you are doing necessarily. You could be 300 pounds and eating maybe 700 calories a day and still not losing weight, because even though you're eating very low calories, your mitochondria, they just don't know how to work anymore. They don't know how to work and use the energy properly, and that's why it's called mitochondria dysfunction. It's because they just don't know how to work. I have a white cat and his hairs are everywhere. So once we get this downstream, when the thyroid slows down, everything slows down. Everything slows down. So that means your brain, cognitive performance slows down. Brain fog actually increases, but that's part of the cognitive performance. And when the cognitive performance slows down, you can get irritable as well, because you're like, I can't think straight. Like, you just can't focus. Everything makes you very irritable. And then that has the downstream effect that I want to continue on with. Your bowel movements slow down. When your thyroid is slow, and I've spoken to many of you about this, that slows down. Now, once the bowel movements slow down, how you assimilate nutrients also slows down. And this is where people will complain of losing a lot of hair or their eyebrows. They'll lose the end of each eyebrows, the last third. They'll feel cold a lot, cold hands, cold feet. They get constipated a lot because everything slows down, and that includes how you absorb nutrients. And the body almost goes into this like chronic stressed state, even though you might feel you're fine, you're like, yeah, it was all right. That doesn't mean, and again, hear me well, because I've said this to a few of you, just because you feel fine, like, yeah, today was a good day, that does not mean that your central nervous system and your body is not stressed. And it's important to remember that, because I ask all the time, how was your day? Are you stressed? How was your sleep? Especially if someone has been through trauma, whether recently or in the past, whether or not that was like something insanely traumatic, or maybe just a car crash or a bad experience at work, whatever it is, it's going to impact different people differently. And what that does is it tags. You think of like your, just to kind of give you this kind of visual aid, your central nervous system, as everything moves, almost like a train station. The train's going up and down, all these electrical signals all the time being sent up and down your body. Your central nervous system, again, straight line from here down your spine, right down to your heels. So here down to your heels. So you've got trains or electrical signals going up and down all day. And when you go through this traumatic event, one of these trains gets tagged. It gets stamped to almost say, like, you're damaged, you don't work properly, like, you're not complete, there's something wrong with you. So that train is damaged going up and down. So maybe that train wobbles a bit as it goes along the tracks. And this trauma, that tag stays with you for life, forever and ever. Unfortunately, I hate to say that, but it does. Your central nervous system will hold on to that tag. So even though you feel like you're okay, oh, it was a great day or it was a good week, and you feel like you can do blah, 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 your central nervous system may be stressed. And if you do blah, 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 let's say 3 hard workouts, by the weekend you almost feel crushed. And then you get sick again because your body was not in a good state to do that, because it wasn't optimal, because everything is slower and everything's not recovered. So when the thyroid slows, everything slows. And I'm sure a lot of you will recognize the constipation aspect. Now, before I go on, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. And there is a free thyroid masterclass, because this is not just about the thyroid. We're moving on now. And there is a free thyroid supplements masterclass, and many of you have access to the thyroid guide as well. You'll find those masterclasses over on my YouTube channel, and I think one of them is up on the podcast. Hi, Teresa. Tracy, yeah, you get it. Hi, Carla. I firmly believe, and I stand by this, and I know a lot of other practitioners will agree with me. I know Dr. Alden Dahl agrees with me. I know Dr. Michael Platt agrees with me. I firmly believe that most women over the age of 30, myself included, have some form of hypothyroidism. And most women would do with some sort of support for the thyroid. And I think a lot of you know this. A lot of you are doing iodine or NAC. Tracy, you're doing the thyroid supplement. I'm doing one of those thyroid supplements. Like, a lot of you, my followers, are doing stuff. But I can't express it any clearer. I really think most women, especially women, a couple of men, 2 of my male clients have hypothyroidism. One of my clients, his TSH was 5, which is insane because we want it below 1.5. And his doctor was like, no, it's fine. I'm like, are you crazy? Anyway, most people do. And you know, like, this is just it. Regardless if you've had trauma or whatever, if you lived through the pandemic, you will have went through that traumatic experience. That was very stressful. Even though some people said, you know, this was actually a blessing. I wrote this book, I lost this weight, I did whatever. Okay, I get you used it to your best ability, but it was still stressful for you, because waking up, especially in those first few months, and not knowing, like, is today the day the world ends? What else is happening? Like, are they closing something else? Are the military coming? Like, that was very traumatic for a lot of people. And because of that, people were just living in a big state of stress. And then you throw in inflation, people losing their jobs, trying to provide for your kid. Like, it's just everywhere all the time. So you can kind of understand, yeah, most people do have thyroid issues and would benefit from some sort of support. We'll get to the test at the end, which is really simple. So then, when everything slows down, this is important. Going back to the constipation part, when everything slows down, it basically means like your body is stressed to the hilt and it's just trying to survive. It's just surviving. And when you're in survival mode, what's not important is digestion, reproduction, growing hair, all that sort of stuff. What is important is keeping your heart going, your brain going, just the basic blood flow to keep you alive. Keep you alive. That's it. So that means, and it's all important, but when Elaine, you watch this, hopefully you'll understand what's going on with you. When you're stressed, digestion gets either completely shut off or everything gets slowed right down. All the blood is pulled away from your digestive system, away. It gets put to your heart to keep it pumping and keep you alive. And the rest of the blood goes to your extremities, like your hands and your legs, because if you did have to run, they need to have blood to have that output of power. Because of that, then, your hydrochloric acid, the stomach acid, gets reduced. But not only that, that has a ripple effect that then slows down like digestive enzymes, the pancreatic enzymes. Bile acid starts to slow down. Everything just slows almost to a halt. Everything slows down. So now I've always described like your stomach is like a bag, like this. And if it's the stomach acid is supposed to be almost to the top, like 3/4 full. But if you're always stressed and everything is slow, that stomach acid gets reduced to maybe 1/4 of what it should be. And that leaves all this wide space of stomach tissue open. It's exposed. It's not protected anymore from pathogens because really your mouth and your stomach is your first line of defense when you get any sort of germ in there. You drink from a dirty cup and that bacteria goes into your stomach and your stomach acid burns it alive. And that's the end of that. But if that stomach acid now is only 1/4, you have all this delicate tissue, like really delicate tissue is exposed. And if that gets some sort of pathogen in there at some stage, could be H. pylori or another germ, bacteria, that's going to damage that tissue there. And that tissue becomes raw, it becomes exposed, and that can go right up through your esophagus because, again, if the acid is down here and you're bringing in all this food or alcohol or whatever it is, your stomach can start to spit it back up because it's like, I can't digest this. So let's get it back out. And people will start to like, they'll belch or they might feel food coming back up here because the stomach is trying to like expel it. It's like, we don't have acid or enzymes. We can't do it. And so it's trying to push it back out. But at the same time, this tissue is exposed and it becomes raw, you know, like if you get a blister in your mouth and it peels and the underlying skin is raw, it's like that. Or even I scraped my hand the other day and the top couple of layers came off my hand and it was very raw. That's what it's like inside your stomach. So then when you consume stuff, you start to feel this ouch, this pain, like this burning sensation, or maybe apple cider vinegar doesn't sit well with you because your stomach acid is too low and this skin is still exposed and maybe there is still a pathogen there or an ulcer there. That's where we would use our mastic gum and our zinc. But really we want to bring this acid back up. But all of this is because the thyroid has slowed everything down. Then that moves on to, like I mentioned, your gallbladder. One of the key indicators back in like the 1930s, one way they could say, yes, you have hypothyroidism, is if you had gallbladder issues. It was almost an early indicator that you have hypothyroidism. So anyone with gallbladder issues generally has hypothyroid. But if you also have high cholesterol along with that, high cholesterol is usually a good indicator that you have hypothyroidism. So sometimes when people ask me to look at their blood panel, most doctors now, many of us know, will only test TSH, and TSH is thyroid stimulating hormone. It does not come from the thyroid. It doesn't. It comes from the pituitary gland, and that's a signal to your thyroid. So it's not always a great indicator of hypothyroidism, but like I said, most people have hypothyroidism, so you could almost guess at this stage based on biomarkers. But if I look at TSH and they haven't tested anything else but that and cholesterol, and most doctors always test cholesterol, if cholesterol is high and the TSH is off, you can make a confident diagnosis that like this person has hypothyroidism. But that's how they did it back in the like early 1900s. Is they would look at gallbladder issues and they would look at cholesterol, because if cholesterol is high, it's because everything has slowed down and you're not breaking down the cholesterol fast enough or properly, and then eliminating it. That's where eliminating cholesterol, most of that comes out of your poop. So if you're constipated, well, you're not pooping out your cholesterol. So, but a big part of like chronic stress and slowing down your thyroid is going to slow down not just the like stomach. So the liver and the gallbladder, they're on your right side and your stomach's on your left. So you're not only slowing down everything on the left in regards to digestion, not you, like your thyroid and metabolism, everything on the left has slowed down, but also everything on the right has slowed down. So gallbladder has slowed down, bile production, bile excretion, that's where, because bile has come so slow that it starts to get like sludge, it gets really thick and it's really slow, and then we can start to see it just glunk up and stick together, and then eventually becomes gallstones. It's one of the terms is gluggy bile, like that's actually a term they use in the medical field. But that also then tells us like liver also has slowed down. Now, when the liver slows down, well, that actually means detoxification has slowed down. And one thing we always consider, and I always consider when I work with all of you, like everything is like, okay, how is this impacting their inflammation, their blood sugars? How can we support detoxification? Like I'm always thinking of all this when I recommend stuff. But when thyroid, it's notoriously known that when thyroid is slow, liver, aka detoxification, is slow. So you're slower to detoxify toxins, but also hormones, because your liver is the main detoxification area for estrogen. Estrogen being obviously our female hormone, but it's more negative. It has more damaging effects when it accumulates in the body. That's why we want estrogen out. That's why we don't want IUDs or anything, because we need to bleed and get it out. Estrogen is obviously a huge player in cancer for women. It's also a huge player in cardiovascular disease. We've known for centuries that estrogen was a problem. Like, we've known this. But we want to get estrogen out. And the liver is like the main processing organ for estrogen. So if that liver slows down, now we're not getting our estrogen out properly. So now that estrogen starts to get recirculated. The other way that we remove a lot of estrogen is through our poop, through our bowel movements. And if you're not pooping and that waste is just sitting in your intestines for days and days and days, Well, there's a scientific name, but basically that estrogen gets detached from the waste, the estrogen molecule, and then it gets absorbed back through the intestinal lining and recirculated through the bloodstream again. Obviously, this is problematic. But also, and please slow me down, when we're not detoxifying properly, we obviously are getting this backload of toxins. When we start our journey, what we do, Stephanie, you'll remember this. A few of you will remember this. Natasha, you'll get this. When we start our journey, like my clients and my protocols, it's very common to see either two things. The first period of working with me will be heavier because you break down so much fat and we're supporting the systems that then when you do detox those chemicals, heavy metals, whatever was in your fat cells, they get dumped into the bloodstream and now your body has to get them out. So it's very common that that first period is heavier, and that's normal. And then the second is fine, and then it improves. And some people might get skin breakouts, like some pimples. Some people might get some weird rashes, like it's normal. Some people might notice a weird smell. It's normal. But also, if you have an IUD, it's not uncommon for within those first few weeks of like working with me, let's say 3, 4, 5 weeks in, you start getting some spotting and you were like, oh, well, I haven't had any spotting for 5 years. Yes, because the body is trying to push out these toxins. It's doing its best to push them out because they're supposed to be out. It's the whole reason women have a period. It's part of our not only our life cycle and reproductive cycle, but it's a part of our health cycle because God, the creator, knew that if we kept this excess estrogen in our body, it's pretty much going to destroy us. We can connect it back to so many issues. Like estrogen is problematic, and you have to approach hormones with an understanding of like this is this. But anyway, so if you're not detoxing properly, and not only have you got this accumulation of extra toxins in your body because they're not getting out properly, like they may be getting out, but slower, like very slow. And unless you're doing other stuff like maybe binding, maybe you're doing sauna every second day, or hot baths, or sweating a lot with exercise, like using the other detox organs, like if your bowel's not working properly, and let's say you have an IUD, so you're constipated and have an IUD, okay, well then you really should take advantage of heat therapy and exercising enough to sweat and exhale, like panting. That's detoxification as well. Every time you exhale, that's part of your detoxification process. So you should be taking advantage of these. Another great thing that people don't consider with detoxification is muscles. The more muscles you have, the better you detox because muscles help to metabolize toxins. They'll break them down and help you get them out of your body. So that's another way. But anyway, back to the toxic aspect. One thing we know, and I did a podcast episode on this during the summer, I did 2 of them. I hope I'm not losing anybody. But when you have high estrogen, that increases systemic inflammation. But that will also inflame the thyroid. High estrogen causes high inflammation of the thyroid gland. When the thyroid gland inflammation is high, it's not going to produce thyroid hormones optimally. So people who have a lot of estrogen issues, again, we got to get the estrogen down. We got to push down the inflammation. We have to support the thyroid. But anyway, back to those podcasts. Estrogen is directly connected to histamine. Estrogen helps make histamine. Histamine helps make estrogen, and it all comes back to that immune inflammatory response. So if you have a lot of estrogen in your body, estrogen, one prime example of that, well, one, if you have a lot of excess body fat, you have extra estrogen because fat cells make their own or estrogen, and they also absorb estrogen. But 2, if you've got like a lot of PMS issues, heavy painful periods, blood clots, That's kind of fertility issues, fibroids, even miscarriages, even endometriosis, like all that sort of stuff, cysts, that can be an indicator of estrogen dominance, which basically means you have very high estrogen. So when you have high estrogen, you're going to have histamine issues because they go hand in hand. It's a vicious circle. The more histamine issues you have, the more estrogen issues you have, the more estrogen issues you have, the more so you kind of have to help. You just have to continuously, because I know this sounds like, well, shit, how do I get out of this vicious cycle? Honestly, you have to keep chipping away every day, doing everything, and eventually, like, a switch does click, and then you're out of that vicious cycle. So you have to, like, be helping your detoxification. It's almost like, instead of it being automatic, like it would be in a healthy body, you now have to come in and do the manual work until your body learns to do it automatically again. So that would mean, like, okay, you've got to focus on reducing the estrogen while also doing the lower histamine protocol, supporting metabolism and detoxification. And you just wash, rinse, repeat until eventually it switches. But all of that slows down. And when people have histamine issues, it's not fun. I get crappy histamine issues. They're not too bad, thankfully. They used to be a lot worse. But like travel sickness, I get terrible travel sickness. I always have to drive. Um, Once in a while, I will notice, like, I'll get a runny nose when I'm exercising, and that's usually around my high estrogen days on my cycle, or my eyes will water, and that's really annoying if you do your eyeliner or mascara. I'm like, oh, for God's sake. But I can usually connect it back to, oh, did I have alcohol at the weekend? What did I have? Like, you can, when you become really aware, you can connect it back. People who have histamine issues, they'll flush with alcohol, they'll get really warm, they'll have a lot of sinus issues, congestion, they'll get sick a lot, they'll have a lot of systemic inflammation. But like I'm kind of mentioning, it all goes hand in hand there. People also who have estrogen issues, and I was one of these when I was very overweight, and even those years after losing my weight, I still had a lot of work to do to, like, fix my body. My body was not in a good place. So then the varicose veins are really common in people with estrogen dominance. I still have them now because the damage was done. The damage was done. Like, once the veins swell, they're not going back in. Like, you can't bring them back in. So I still have them. It took me a lot of work to get my body working properly. And it is a case of, like, the old saying, like, this is a lifestyle, it has to be done forever, which kind of sucks to think about, but not really. Like, you end up feeling so good, you look good, it just becomes who you are. But it's getting there that I understand is the hard part. So yeah, when you have all these estrogen issues, you have the inflammation, you have the histamine issues, you have the aches, pains, you've got all this stuff. This goes back, though, to the thyroid and the stress response. So you get that everything on the left slows down. I'm like, left, right. Everything on the right, my right, obviously, slows down. And how does that then affect your sex hormones, apart from what I've said about estrogen? Well, of course, estrogen, very inflammatory, causes the thyroid gland to inflame. And then it also slows down thyroid function. You're then in, because the liver slows down, the estrogen keeps accumulating. So now you've got high estrogen. And that's, I don't want to say that's okay when you're younger, because not necessarily, because you see a lot of your daughters and young girls, they have a lot of hormone, like, period issues, which really are the estrogen. Their problem is estrogen. The end, full stop. It's estrogen. Even these, like, young little girls who are getting their period at like 3, 4, 6, like really young, it's estrogen that's the problem. And part of that is because we have external factors coming at us. Like, you've heard of these xenoestrogens, basically fake estrogens coming in through the environment. We're exposed to them at higher levels now than we ever have, which means like you really gotta pay attention to detoxification, because now not only are you trying to detox whatever is in you, you're also detoxing the external stuff that's coming at you from everywhere that you can't see. It's kind of shitty, but this is the way society is now. Like everything's more concentrated than it ever was. Stress is more concentrated. Toxins in the air everything is more. And like great, some technology is more. It's great, like the new iPhone, the whatever, this, that, and the other. I could care less about technology. I literally barely know how to work the TV. Some days I'm like, put this on for me. I don't even want to think about how to use this remote control. We got a new my husband got a new TV for Christmas, and honestly, I don't even know where the on off button is on the TV. I know where it is on the remote, but like stuff like that doesn't interest me. But back to my point, like some things are better nowadays. Some things great, like we're advancing, but some things are a lot, especially on the body, because the body has not evolved fast at all compared to like back to thousands of years ago. The human body is pretty much the same as when Jesus Christ was born. Like, just to put it in perspective, we have not evolved. Our DNA has not evolved that much. Genetics have not evolved. Like, we're pretty much the same. But our environment has changed a lot, and our bodies struggle to keep up with it. And that's part of why we suffer so much with like trying to deal with this much stress in a body that's not designed to deal with this much stress. Now, some bodies obviously more resilient than others, but in general, as the demands, as this new environment and societal demands have increased very fast, our body's like crawling behind, going, I can kind of deal with this, but not really. You see this. You see when people use alcohol to just relax. I've done it. We've all had to do it, because you just can't, like, it's just too much, and it's just the way the body is. So then when you have this high estrogen, with all the problems that causes, when you have a lot of stress coming in, and back to our adrenals, those sister adrenals, they keep getting hammered and hammered and hammered with this stress all the time. And then what happens is that reduces our production of our DHEA, pregnenolone, and progesterone. Basically, our protective hormones, our calming protective hormones. So I speak about progesterone a lot, so we'll kind of focus on that. It's easier for you to understand. It is easier. Estrogen, progesterone, let's just like keep it simple like that. When you have all this stress coming in, it down regulates your production of progesterone. And progesterone is our calming, sane, vitality hormone. It is the hormone that gives us lots of energy. Progesterone speeds up metabolism. It raises core temperature. Progesterone loves the thyroid, and the thyroid loves progesterone. They like hug and kiss all day, every day. Like they're like best friends. They're not sisters, because you know sometimes sisters will fight, but they're best friends. Like progesterone, your thyroid, they're just like a match made in heaven. So progesterone is protective, and we know this. We know that progesterone offsets the damaging effects of estrogen. Progesterone, for example, rubbed on a varicose vein that's throbbing, will calm down that varicose vein and help it soothe, and then the pain goes away. If you've ever had a throbbing varicose vein, it's not so much pain as it is sore, and it aches and you can feel it. And you rub progesterone on that and it'll help go away. So that's what progesterone is. But because you're always like stressed and you always have adrenaline and cortisol going, like I said, from the adrenals, eventually your body taps out, because no matter how much food you're taking in, you have so much stress, and it has damaged the metabolism so much that, like I said, you could be 300 pounds and taking in 700 calories, but you don't lose weight and you're exhausted all the time. But you shouldn't be, because you have all this extra energy on you, but it's because your body just doesn't know how to do things anymore. So now it starts to struggle to make, so the precursors to your hormones are B vitamins and cholesterol. If you're not getting them into your diet, and even if you are and your body doesn't know how to use them properly, now we start stealing the precursors, the building blocks to your progesterone. And we steal that. I've spoken about the pregnenolone or progesterone steal a lot. Sometimes I like to call it the cortisol steal. So your body steals the building blocks for your good sex hormones, and it shuttles them down a different pathway to make even more cortisol and adrenaline. So now you have estrogen that's very high, and your progesterone was already low, because progesterone and estrogen, they've always been off. But as you build up more and more estrogen, that gets higher. But now, for an already low progesterone, that starts to go even lower because you're not making any more, because stress is taking the building blocks to that. They're gone. There's no building blocks for progesterone. So people can get tested and they'll have like zero progesterone at all. And this is where like you have a lot of anxiety, you're very wired, you can wake up in the middle of the night like this. I speak about it as adrenaline dominance, but it is connected to low progesterone as well. Hot flashes can ensue because the stress response is always on, blood sugar issues. You can look older than you actually are. Like everything's shit, put it like that, because progesterone is low, so everything is slow, and now it's slower. But when you have adequate progesterone, progesterone speeds up the metabolism. Everything works faster and faster and faster and faster, because progesterone is this just came to me. I'm a genius. Progesterone is the hormone of life. Estrogen is the hormone of fertility. It helps build the uterine lining and everything. But if you don't have progesterone, you will not hold on to that baby. Unfortunately, I hate to say that, but you need progesterone to hold on to a pregnancy, because it is the hormone of life, of sustaining life, but also a life full of energy and vitality. So that's where the hormone aspect comes into it. Have I made sense so far? I've really tried to explain it like in the simplest way I can. I want to make sure I'm covering everything I wanted to cover. I see there's a few comments there. I'll take a look at them now. So I'm sure you're all saying, okay, well, what do we do? I'll tell you. But back to that. Stress everywhere, here, there, everywhere. Like right now, the lights stress on me. Hits your pituitary gland. That then sends a signal down your central nervous system. And it's like, alarm, alarm, tiger's coming. Pump out adrenaline, pump out cortisol. And then when that comes in, it takes blood flow away from your digestive system. It slows down thyroid production. Everything slows down, right down to your liver. And then you start imbalancing the hormones. Your metabolism's not working, the hormones are imbalanced, and you feel rubbish going around. You're constipated, you're irritable, you're weepy, you're emotional, you feel like failure, you're having sleep issues, lots of anxiety, you've got cravings because you've got low motivation and you're moody, but also estrogen encourages sugar cravings, you've got systemic inflammation. Like, it's not fun. It's not fun. So let me just take a look at these comments, and then we'll get back to this. Ex-husbands. Oh my God, I'm a mess. So frustrating. That is me to a T. Doctors don't look deep enough into it, and we end up losing organs over it. Seriously? You're right though, Amanda. They don't. And look, I'm not a doctor. I've never claimed to be a doctor, ever, ever, ever. Never said I was a doctor. But what I have said is I'll always do as much as I can to help people and help understand. I get a lot of blood panels sent to me. This last week I've deciphered like 6 blood panels, which is very time consuming. It's not just a case of just look at it. Yeah. Like you have to compare the numbers. Um, and then I've had obviously a lot of people talk to me about their hormones, and they're like, my doctor won't help me. He said there's nothing wrong with me. He won't prescribe me this. Unfortunately, in Canada now, we cannot get hormones. We can't get bioidentical hormones. And it was for no other reason that it was money. It wasn't safety. It wasn't efficacy. It was none of that. It was all money. So we can't get hormones, especially bioidentical hormones, without a prescription. But a lot of doctors won't give you a prescription because they don't understand hormones. You have to understand, like GPs, family physicians, they don't get trained in hormones. They don't. That's a specialist category. So they would have to go and do that extra course or whatever. That's why we have like endocrinologists. It's a specialty. So then they're not helping women. And like you want to see a specialist? Good luck. Forget about that. So then I was like, there has to be another way. And that's where, again, I don't claim to be a doctor, but I will try and help. If I can help, I will try and help. So it's not fair. It's frustrating because people, like, I know young women getting hysterectomies when really you're like, well, maybe you should have tried some hormone replacement before doing that. Like, you literally just took her whole uterus. Like, it's insane. It's insane. I've spoke about when I was going through my cervical cancer journey, they offered me like a hysterectomy. I was like, are you insane? I'm like 32. Like my husband has vasectomy. Not to tell the world, but I did just tell the world. I'm like, we're not having any more babies, but like, I don't want a hysterectomy. I'm 32. Are you on crack? Like, what the hell? But they're just like willy-nilly offering it. I'm like, maybe you teach me and other women how to take care of ourselves better. But anyway, is there any hope for me with no thyroid? Oh, Shelley, you were in a great position after looking at your blood panel the other day. You are in a good position. There is one thing that concerns me, but we can talk about that privately. But I don't think you're at risk for it because you exercise so much and you obviously work with me and you take care of yourself. So for an average woman who is in a state of hyper, not hypo, ladies, for an average woman who's in a state of hyperthyroidism, who maybe is just on medication and doesn't actually like take care of herself properly, she can be at higher risk of cardiovascular disease and stroke. But if you take care of yourself and you have a good active lifestyle, you get your sunshine and you go to bed and you do your evening routine and you laugh and you get sunshine, and like you take care of yourself, you can really mitigate a lot of these risks. You really can. So like, Shelley, I think you're in a great position. I do. Alicia, I'm the same. I make the boys put shows on for me. I could care less about electronics. I really could. I would be happy to just go to the gym, bake, read, live in my own little world, but I can't. Okay. I just want to get through these comments first. Not sure if I heard right, but could rub progesterone on my back? Yes, you can, because progesterone is anti-inflammatory. Now, I don't recommend pills. I don't. Suppositories, I've discussed that with a couple of you. But I don't recommend progesterone oral pills because here's why. They have to then get metabolized in the liver. And most progesterone that's prescribed here is Provera. I think I'm pronouncing it right. Provera. Not Premarin, Provera. It's one of the, it's not Premarin. I'm pretty sure it's Provera. So it has to get metabolized in the liver, and then it doesn't attach to progesterone receptors on the cells. What happens is it stays in the bloodstream. So then when you go back to like 3 months later, you go back, you get your progesterone levels tested, just a blood test. So not even a Dutch test, just a blood test. So that tests serum progesterone. Serum progesterone is blood progesterone. And because I'm pretty sure it's Provera, that'll annoy me now. Um, it doesn't attach to the cells, it stays in the bloodstream, so in the serum. Progesterone. This will just annoy me. I have to look this up. Yeah, it's Provera. Yeah. So it's medroxyprogesterone, which is actually one of the ingredients in one of the supplements I did a post about the other day, as in like, anyway, my mind. So you get your serum, your blood progesterone tested, and it'll show, oh look, it's working. Your blood progesterone is back in the normal range, or it's high, but you're like, I still have all the symptoms. I don't sleep. I've got lots of anxiety. My cholesterol's high. I'm freezing going around all the time. Yeah, because that progesterone's not working. It's not attaching to the cells. It doesn't attach to the receptors. And that's where bioidentical and topical progesterone comes in. But anyway, so yes, it can help with pain. Part of that is because it offsets the damaging effects of estrogen. Estrogen obviously causes like the fibroids, the heavy periods, the pain, lots of blood, all the fun stuff, but drives up systemic inflammation. And if you don't have anything to offset the estrogen, it just going off doing whatever it likes. So not only will the progesterone act locally, but it'll help to push down inflammation by starting to balance out estrogen. One thing I will add, I meant to do a post on this earlier, but I got distracted. Progesterone dosing can vary on different body types. So for me, like I'm 140 pounds, one pump usually pretty good for me. But if someone's like double my size, they may need two pumps to get the same effects. So that's just important to remember. Makes sense. I've had zero libido for over 3 years. My poor husband. If one thing is going to crush libido, like regardless of hormones, Jody, you posted that picture like 5 times. If there's one thing that is going to crush, regardless of hormones, if you're stressed, are you going to want to do anything in the bedroom? If you are wired and stressed, you're like, bitch, please. That is the last thing on my mind tonight. Like, don't even come near me. Are you insane? Because I have a list of a million things to do and I've done 2 of them today. Like, that kind of is common sense to me. But then, yeah, there is the hormones. Like, how do we turn off that stress response? We can't keep depending on alcohol all the time to relax us and put us in the mood. So part of that is the hormonal aspect. So looking at that from both angles is important. What blood work would I get for you to check my blood panel? It's individual for each person. Like, there's generic ones that I like to look at. It depends on your doctor. Some people have good doctors, decent doctors, not good, but decent, and I'll send them a list and they're like, yep, and they'll test all of it. Some doctors, I might get the basics. So back to like, if I'm concerned about thyroid, but they won't do a full thyroid panel, then if I can get cholesterol done, like all the lipids, that would be cholesterol, LDL, HDL. Some of them will do VLDL, which is the very low density, but it's not even too much of a concern when you're looking at everything else. Cholesterol, that will also include triglycerides. Triglycerides being the fat in your blood. And then the TSH, so I'll look at both of them, and if I can get CRP as well, which is one of our inflammatory markers, because we're thinking of a generic system here now, like your average doctor, they're not going to start testing like IL-6 and all these other inflammatory markers. They're just going to do the basic. So if I can get CRP done, the C-reactive protein, then that is going to, you can put things in context. That's what you can do. And then, like you all know, I'll ask you questions like, how are you feeling? And you can combine all of that together, which is helpful. So if you're going to get a blood panel done, you totally like reach out and I'll tell you. Kathy, are you laughing? Because I said, bitch, please. Like we're all women here. Sometimes I'm like, ugh, whatever. Whatever, wifely duties, just let's just get it over with. Tomorrow can't come soon enough. Like sometimes it is a case of like I just don't want to do this. I'm tired, I'm stressed, but man. Okay, so back to that's all the questions so far. You can keep commenting. You got some good conversation. We'll spend another minute or two here. So I mentioned, okay, how do we break this cycle? Apart from winning the lotto and living on an island somewhere with like Tom Hardy, that's not going to happen. Well, it could, but I don't do the lotto. But apart from that, how do we kind of like break this cycle of everything, not just like the estrogen histamine cycle? How do we break everything? How do we get better? Well, the first thing you got to do is at least have awareness. What is stressing me? What is stressing my body? What can I pull back on? Maybe I have to eliminate my heavy workouts for a while. Maybe like you got to have that real talk. The next thing, and I've been doing this a lot with people, and this is not new, ladies, because if you go back through my YouTube channel, I think 2 years ago, I did a video on this, but I'm going to do a new one on how to test your metabolism. And there's 2 ways in that video I mentioned was taking your temperature, and then your heart rate was another way. Excuse me. But really lately, I've been doing the temperature a lot, because a lot of my women have hysterectomy, so it's a bit hard for me to know. I'm like thinking, okay, well, is she ovulating? Is she making progesterone? Like, what's going on here? But of course, if they don't know where they are in their cycle, well, there's an easy way we can do that, easy-ish. And that is to take your temperature every morning. We have these ranges that we're supposed to be in on your like average morning. I speak in Celsius because I'm Irish and that's that. So with taking your temperature, you want your temperature to be around 36.6, 36.8 is amazing, in and around that range though. And that's going to tell you like you have a good metabolism and your thyroid is working optimally, and you'll generally know that. You'll feel warm, your skin will be good, your hair will grow good. Like you'll know your body, you'll know these markers. So what I do is I get women to take their temperature every morning before they get out of bed. So you just have a thermometer, and there's a specific one I like. It's an ovulation one, and you can use it if someone gets sick in your family. It's still a thermometer. I just like this one because the ovulation ones seem to be calibrated a little bit better. They're a bit more trustworthy. And you take that every morning as soon as you wake up, before you move and get out of bed, and you just record that like in Notepad on your phone or whatever. And you have like, we want at least 30 days to see where things change. So let's say you're 36.6 for the first 10, 14 days of the month or the cycle, whatever. And then you get a little spike. Maybe you go up to 37. And it could be a little bit less than that, would be normal. Let's say even 36.9, whatever the spike is. You get a little spike. That indicates, oh, something happened here. That could be ovulation. And if that stays high for the following 14 days, we know you've ovulated and that you've got a boost in progesterone. And coinciding with that boost in progesterone is that increase in your metabolic health. Like your metabolism will increase there as well. And I did a podcast a while ago on like how your menstrual cycle affects fat loss and how to train and all that, because when you know these numbers, you can optimize it. Your metabolism increases in the second half of your cycle. So if you play the game right, you can lose a lot of body fat in the second half of your cycle. Again, if you play the game right. So, but you have to start somewhere. So you have to test so you know, like, okay, well, my body temperature is 35 every morning. My hands are cold. My hair is like brittle. It falls out. Like, you look at everything and then you can say, okay, this might be a thyroid issue. Now, what are we going to do? How can we improve this? Um, honestly, the first easiest thing that I do is I will bring in topical iodine. That's the first easiest thing to do, because not only does um I like your thyroid hormone is made of an iodine molecule and a tyrosine molecule. I that's like that's what your thyroid hormone is made of. So if you don't have enough iodine, you're not going to make thyroid hormone. Shelly, you don't do this. You don't do this. But the rest of us, we can. So you bring in iodine and you help your thyroid start making its own thyroid hormone better. But also, iodine is a great chelator. It's a detox molecule. It'll displace toxins and heavy metals. So while it's supporting your thyroid, it also helps detoxification in the binding displacement aspect, and it's been shown to reduce inflammation. So you start to feel better. You will even notice skin issues improve. So iodine is the first thing I'll start with. And then some people just want to tell me what to do next. Some people, it's individual. Some people have all the money in the world to throw at whatever I recommend. Some people not so much. So it's very individual. But that's what I would do first. You have to get the thyroid and metabolism working. So everything I recommend impacts these, right down to those of you rolling your eyes about TV at night and blue light. It all impacts it. Anything that makes you feel inflamed, you can be sure it's inflaming your thyroid and the rest of your cells. So I know it's all very complicated, but if you ask for help, you will receive help. You'll be told what to do. If you do it consistently, you will see the results. It's not a matter of you need to know everything I do. You don't need to know everything. You don't need to understand it the way I do, but you ask for help. You do what you're told. You do it consistently. We converse. We have feedback to see how it's going. And you literally do get to a point, and it might take a few months for some people. It might take a few weeks. Everyone's different. For me, with iodine, it took like 3 months for that metabolic switch to flick. But I had faith it was going to work. Everyone's different, but you got to keep doing it, and then it switches. And once you get on the other side of that switch flicking, that metabolic switch flicking, there's almost no going back, because you have the results and you feel great and you look great. It's like you're almost a new person. So it, although what I say can be like, oh no, and there's, how am I supposed to remember? You don't have to remember all this. I remember this. You just ask for help, like I said. Can we do progesterone with blood work? Yeah, you can. Progesterone is the safest hormone out there. Like, it's so safe. You can use it during pregnancy. It's used on newborns. It's used on prenatal babies, like babies born early. It's used on animals. It's used on men. Like, progesterone is the safest hormone that you can get. It really is. And guess what? The pharmaceutical industry has known about it for a long, long, long time. A long time. A long time. They knew that it was one of the key factors in helping women get well. Oh, I hate to say this, but I'm going to say it. They knew that by prescribing women estradiol, they were going to make women sick and kill them. They knew that, but it was such a big money thing. We could go down that rabbit hole another day. So iodine is done topically. Kathy, I have a couple of posts in the biohacking group on iodine. If you type it in, just type iodine in the search bar. Maybe tomorrow. Your brain's probably full of information now. Iodine is done topically. I rub it on the inside of my arms. I try to find balance. I don't want you ingesting everything in supplements, in pill form. Like, I try to find balance. Is the morning in terms of time of day or when you wake up? Can I track it on a night shift? It's based on when you wake up, Catherine. So when you go asleep, your core temperature drops. That's your basal metabolic rate. That's your metabolic rate upon resting. So as soon as you wake up, you might get the teeniest, tiniest blimp in metabolism. If you woke up with a nightmare, you would, because you've adrenaline, so your metabolism might be a bit higher because it's being shocked awake. But when you wake up in the morning, you take your temperature before you even move. So you're going from your resting metabolic rate to waking up and taking your temperature, and then you move. So it's not at the end of a night shift. Even at the end of the night shift, if you were to ask me, I would expect your temperature to be lower than it would be in the daytime because of the nature of the beast of night shift. And before we go, when you take your temperature, you can either do it through your rectum, which most of us don't want to do. You can do it vaginally, but like, you're not gonna lie in bed doing that first thing in the morning. Like, let's be realistic. But what the next best way is, you're gonna take your thermometer and you're gonna stick it under your tongue. See that bit of skin under there? So the bit of skin that keeps your tongue connected to your jaw, you put the thermometer right back on either side of that bit of skin, right to the very back, and you just hold it there until the thermometer beeps or says it's done. You're not just putting it in your mouth on top of your tongue, you're putting it under your tongue as far back as you can get it, and then hold it there. You could do it rectally, vaginally if you want. I prefer to just put it under my tongue, but each to their own. And you want like at least 30 days so I can see. Some people, I'll have them just do like a week or two if I'm eager to get them started on something, just to give me a baseline. Okay, like her temperature is 35.2 every morning. That's low. Okay. I probably already had some kind of idea or indication that there was a problem there. And that's where I'll go. Another thing, this is going to be interesting, and I swear I'm going to finish, but I'm going to leave you with this. Ladies with big breasts, there's estrogen dominance there. So if there's estrogen dominance there, you can be sure you've got the higher levels of systemic inflammation there. So a lot more aches and pains. So the bigger your breasts are, yes, you will have more inflammation. I can confidently say that. So let's see, is there any more questions? Basal taken, no, not under the arm. Under the arm's not accurate because there's too many variables there that can influence, like hair, sweating, deodorant, like that could influence that. So no, tongue. Okay, any more questions before I let you go? This is a good conversation. I think I'm going to put this on YouTube for if you want to share it with anyone you know. To my detriment, I have too much integrity, and if I have information, I do want to share it with people. So if you do know anyone that might benefit from this, let me know. Okay, come on, one more question or comment before I go. I think some of you know I am. Maybe you don't know, but I'm going to tell you now. But don't tell Airdrie Life magazine that I told you. I got nominated for one of the Airdrie Women Amazing Awards. Actually, someone in our group nominated me, so thank you for that. It's nice to get recognized. But I had the photo shoot today, so when it comes out, please vote for me and tell your husbands to vote for me and your kids and everybody you know, because I want to win, because I'm a winner. Thank you. No, I don't want congratulations, but I do want you to vote for me, just because I'm like, well, now I have to win, because that's me. I have to be number one. I have to win. I will PM you. Yes, PM me tomorrow, but look, I'll post the thermometer that I like in the comments, And like when Roman was sick last week, I used it on him. Like it's just a really good thermometer. If you want to get that and start tracking your metabolism, you should. I'll reshare the other video maybe tomorrow or Friday. You have to understand I have a huge list of things to get through, but start tracking. Why wouldn't you? At least you'd have a good indicator. There's a lot of this stuff, and this is why I've kind of got my clients an amazing deal on hair mineral analysis test. The doctors are only doing so much, and I'm not trying to say they're all bad, but if I can help people more, I will. I'll help people more. I want people to have answers. So I'll put that thermometer in the comments, and if you want to take, otherwise, if you have your own thermometer, use it. But start tracking so you at least know what's going on there. Ideally, you want your temperature around 36.6 Celsius. Don't ask me what that is in Fahrenheit. I have no idea because in Europe, we work on Celsius. I know I'm here now, but you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Jody, yes. Jody, Tracy, you asked me. Melanie, Catherine, you asked me. Actually, my husband wants to do it. Like, they literally are giving my clients wholesale price, which is amazing. So PM me tomorrow. Okay. Okay. Go. We do Celsius too. Not everyone, Catherine. Okay. Good night. Good night, everyone. I gotta go now. Bye.